Hey yo, what's poppin' everybody? Welcome back to episode 5 in this series, and today we're taking a look at everyone's favorite barrier master, the man of infinite energy himself, Android 17. Just a couple of things I want to touch on before we get started. Just a reminder, these videos are discussions. I'm not saying in any way that we need any one of these figures pronto, because yes, there are lots of characters we would all like to see released prior to a lot of these 2.0 re-releases. Second, I do plan on doing Ultimate Gohan, but the challenge is I actually skipped out on him, which I think was a wise choice. But I'm working on getting to it for you guys. Alright, Android 17, your favorite park ranger's back at it again, and while his first incarnation was pretty good, it wasn't perfect. Is it just me, or does something about 17 remind you of a 90s grunge band? I don't know. Alright, so the first thing I was actually going to talk about here was scaling, but in hindsight, he's actually scaling pretty well. Based on the images from the Tournament of Power, 17's height should be around between Frieza and Vegeta, which he is in this case, so no problem there. If anything, I think Frieza's probably the one who's a little bit underscaled in this situation. One thing I actually did want to point out is with the release of the 2.0 line of figures, 17 looks a little bit underscaled in terms of his arms. Now I realize, it's very true to the character's iteration in the anime, and I realize that Super Saiyan 2 is supposed to have more muscle mass and definition than, an android. But just there seems like there's something missing in the arm compared to 2.0 arm. And again, don't get me wrong, 17 was never and is still not a bulky character to begin with, but it just seems like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm used to seeing the super costume by now and the sleeves aren't as baggy here because he's wearing a long sleeve, but something looks a little bit off here. And on the note of the 2.0 sculpts, I think with 17 it would allow for a more accurate representation of his facial characteristics. I mean, I don't know if I'd go the eyeliner route that Super went. It definitely worked out for 18, but aside from that, I think the eyes would come out a lot better with some more sharper definition that the 2.0 sculpt might allow the face for 17. And while the 1.0's face isn't horrible, I feel like his nose and mouth just blend into the flesh color of his face and get lost too easily. I mean, either he overdid the nose jobs or he's really embracing his brother-in-law's style. Now, one interesting thing to note here is that if they do go Super style on us, his hands are not going to be black, as that's how they are in Super because he wears gloves now. Now, speaking of hands, I think they did a great job including like every single hand you could ever want for 17 and then some. My one critique is, should they be slightly bigger? I mean, really, this is getting nitpicky here, but maybe I'm just tired with fiddling with the insanely small pegs just to get the hands onto the arms in the first place. Now, in my opinion, I think it would be pretty cool if they went the Super route, but with the lack of shading on the latest figures, they really need to make sure that they pick the right paints so that the figure doesn't come out looking dull. But hey, maybe they'll include a rifle with him this time. Now lastly, in terms of his overall appearance, again, they did a great job with them. The only thing I would change are these little triangular pieces here. I do understand that they're necessary in order to provide more articulation, but even with these on, he's still not capable of full overhead movement. Alright, so articulation. One major thing I'd like to point out here is that with his release, we actually start to see the emergence of the 2.0 kneecaps. Look familiar? Think Super Saiyan 3 Goku, you've seen these before. And I mean, at the time, kudos to you if you spotted that, because I mean, there was a lot of complaints about the original knees on the 1.0s just because of how ugly they looked when they were bent. But continuing along the path of articulation, one thing that is limited with this figure, and again, common problem when you try to please everybody, you can't have everything perfect. And that's the case with 17's head articulation. It's very difficult to get him looking certain degrees side to side and even up. Mind you, most of the figures in this line cannot look straight up anyways, but he is limited with the head articulation nonetheless because of his bandana here. And my last little gripe with the articulation, as I mentioned before, is the overhead movement. It shouldn't really have to feel like the figure's gonna break or it's resisting you way too much just to get the figure's hand overhead. So moving on to the faces, these are the 3 that we get, and it's pretty much every face that 17 ever made in the anime, including the windswept hair. I think the only face that we're missing that we would need with a 2.0 is just your run-of-the-mill powering up face with an open mouth. So in terms of what they did right with this figure, it was a heck of a lot. First of all, the inclusion of a crap ton of accessories was the way to go. They even included the windswept hair as well as a windswept bandana, points for details there, and they implemented the evolution of the 2.0 style knees onto his figure. And yo, lastly, I think they nailed the sculpt and paint details on his shoes and socks. Just looking fresh. Couldn't get better than that, man. I doubt he's a size 17 though. Alright, so for why'd you do it, I really don't have anything this time. I mean, I think this figure was well timed, I think they executed it very well, and there's only a couple of minor things that I would change. If not, the one major thing would be a costume change for his next release. So there you go, guys. I know I didn't really have much to critique with this figure, but I really think they did a great job. I wanted to cover this guy for a while, and to be honest, I've garnered more interest and respect for his character based on his accomplishments and development in the Tournament of Power. And I'm really looking forward to where they do take his character in the last couple episodes that they have left. But do I think we'll see his 2.0 anytime soon? Well, no, not really. But hey, we can definitely put it out there. My hope is to actually grow this channel to the point where we can actually use it as a platform and voice to make our concerns and opinions heard more towards Tamashii. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I hope the best of your todays are the worst of your tomorrows. Peace.